Look at that. Look at that sexy lineup, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition. Hey, everybody, I'm up here of Grassroots Motorsports Live. I'm JG Pasterjack. This is a lineup of some very, very nice torque wrenches running the gamut from about $20 to close to $300. We're going to test some out tonight, talk a little bit about torque, about torquing fasteners, about why torquing fasteners is a good thing to do, and talk to you a little bit about some of the testing we've done with this Snap-on torque wrench calibrator, torque wrench tester, and go over some of our results that we came up with for these wrenches here. Welcome aboard, everybody. I see a good crowd forming. Here's what I'd like you guys to do tonight. If you are out there watching, if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like, give us a share, even more important. If you're watching over here on YouTube, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't get you any spam unless you opt in for notifications when we go live, but it really, really helps us out a lot, and you get first crack at content that we put up on YouTube. You get to know about it first, should you choose. And we are sort of rededicating ourselves to putting all kinds of stuff up on YouTube at least twice a week. Cool feature on a fellow named Ethan Swindle. His turbocharged Acura Integra just went up a couple days ago. We'll have a short piece on the Ford Raptor we talked about last week going up soon. So doing all kinds of cool stuff on YouTube. We really appreciate it if you subscribed. Also, we would appreciate it. Actually, I see Ethan Swindle is watching right now. Yes, Ethan, thank you for helping us out there. Your Integra is up on YouTube. Please go take a look at that. And I hope we did you well. Ethan's mom was standing right there when he filmed his interview, and he did a very, very good job. She was very proud of him. Also, I want you folks to check out the people that make this show possible. Right over here in the corner. Over here, yes, over here. Our good friends at Crc Industries on the web at crcindustries.com, even better. In a major retailer near you, you can go to Harbor Freight, you can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Advanced Auto Parts, Napa, O'Reilly, and you'll find that CRC stuff. And when you buy it, you're getting a great product. You're also giving a little bit back to the motorsports community, so we really appreciate that. Also, check out our friends at Coney Shocks, coney-na.com. Actually, you can get a discount on an SCCA track night in America through Coney right now. Check out their website, coney-na.com, and Dave will throw up the link to that. Everybody is wanting to get involved. Get their car on track. A set of Coneys is a great way to help you out on track, whether you're driving your car on the road, on the track, racing it, towing with a pickup truck or an SUV. Coney-na.com. Great shocks, great people, great company. Please check them out, and they support this show as well. We are very proud of that. Alrighty, let's get to work. I see some of our top fans chiming in. I see, so I already got some great questions. What's a good torque wrench for valve adjustments? We're gonna get into a lot of the what's a good X for Y stuff in a little bit. We're going to do some testing. We're going to do some calibration here. But first, I want to talk a little bit about torque in general and about why torquing fasteners is important and why we do it in general. So let's take a look at a threaded fastener here. So what are threads? When we talk about threads as part of a threaded fastener, simple machines. A thread is an inclined plane wrapped around a cylinder, and this threaded fastener is then, when paired with the correct other fastener, these two inclined planes, the inclined plane inside this nut, the inclined plane wrapped around the edge of this bolt, climb up each other. They produce a clamping force. Boom, you have a clamp joint. Now remember that term, clamping force, because that is what we're really talking about here. When we talk about torque is actually sort of a secondary way to figure out clamping force. When engineers are designing a part, if you've got part A that needs to connect to part B, these two parts need to push against each other to create a seal, to create whatever interface they're trying to create. So we need a certain amount of clamping force. I apologize in advance. The fact that I am writing things tonight is going to get fairly embarrassing for anybody that ever taught me penmanship. So we need a certain amount of clamping force between these two parts. So the trick is we can't really measure clamping force between two parts. It would require us to put some sort of measuring device in between those two parts, and you can't have that. Those two parts need to mate with each other. So how do we extrapolate clamping force? Well, we can use the amount of torque we are putting on a threaded fastener, since we know if we've got a threaded fastener going through a hole in this, here's our threads, pulling this bottom part up towards the top part, we know based on how much torque we put on that fastener, how tightly those parts are being pulled together within certain limitations. There's lots of variables that go into this. So having precise control or precise knowledge of the amount of torque we're putting on a fastener is paramount, because there are so many other variables. First off, the amount of torque you put into a fastener, most of it, in most cases, is going to be lost to friction. And I'm talking, when I say most of it, I say like a dirty fastener, a rough surface fastener, unlubricated, 60, 70, 80% of the torque you put into that fastener could be lost to friction. Only 10 to 15% of it could be going into clamping force. So that's not a great ratio. So topics for a different show, but we can affect that by lubricating the threads. We can affect that by using materials that are harder rather than softer, that have less friction in between them. Takeaway message here is, when you're paying attention to torque specs, you want to pay attention to what the original intent of those torque specs were. In a mission critical application, you're going to be looking at what grade bolt was used in this application originally, what hardness bolt was used in this application originally. Was this torque spec for a lubricated or unlubricated fastener? So for example, you can change the torque on a fastener by 25, 30, 35% just by lubricating it. So if you have a fastener that needs to be torqued to 100 foot-pounds, say, and you lubricate those threads, if that's a dry torque spec, you lubricate those threads, you could achieve the same clamping force with 70, 75 pounds of torque on that fastener. So if you torque that fastener to the 100 foot-pounds, lubricated, it's supposed to be dry, you're creating way more clamping force than the engineers ever intended, and you actually could lead to premature failure. Let's talk a little bit. Yep, a lot of folks saying hi, tuning in there. Kevin says lube it up. Yeah, it's never a bad idea to lube it up. And Adam wants to know, how does someone become a top fan? So if you are commenting on Facebook right now, you might see the fact that there are some folks that are identified as top fans. We have looked into that a bit, and the answer is we do not know exactly how you become a top fan, but we know that Facebook says the more you contribute, the more you interact, the more you hang out and do stuff on our feeds, the better chance you will have of becoming a top fan. I don't know exactly what the requirements are. I don't know how many comments you have to make. I don't know how many times you have to hit like, but the more you engage, the better chance you have of becoming a top fan. Now, what does it mean to be a top fan? I don't know, but I do know that we can take that list of top fans and we can separate those top fans out from everybody else. So maybe if we're giving something away one night, we can just say, hey, one of our top fans is going to win tickets to Motorhead, and that's what we'll do. And so that's the story on top fans. So Angela is asking, do manufacturers account for that when they develop the torque numbers? So she's asking, do the manufacturers account for lubricated versus dry threads, for dirty threads versus clean threads. And again, the answer is sometimes. If you're building any mission critical thing, head bolts, sometimes brake caliper bolts, anything that is very, very critical, frequently in the instructions you will have specified whether that is a dry torque, a lubricated torque, what type of lubrication is required on those threads. If you've got something that calls for, say, an anaerobic thread locker like Loctite or Vibratite, any of the other brands of anaerobic thread locker, understand that the torque specs that have been given to you, if the instructions say to use an anaerobic thread locker, the torque specs are specific to using that anaerobic thread locker. So you might not get away with torquing something to the proper amount if you don't use that anaerobic thread locker. Now, if nothing else is specified, that's a great question. And I was a journalism and philosophy major, so I am not really qualified to answer that. But if I had to make an educated guess based on 30 years in the industry and only maybe broken a couple dozen things in that point, I would say that given no other specs, your torque specs are going to be for a dry, clean thread on a new fastener. And that's also very important. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. So, given no other instructions, dry, clean threads on a new fastener. So let's do a really, really quick review on how fasteners fail and what we're talking about when we're talking about torquing a fastener to a certain spec. So if we look at a graph, just an XY graph, where we have clamp load up here, and we have torque on the fastener here. Most threaded fasteners are going to have a curve that looks something like this. It's gonna rise fairly evenly, torque and clamp load, to a certain point where it's going to start to trail off, fairly evenly. Then it's going to trail off dramatically. Then it's going to break. So here's what's going on in these different areas. While it's rising in a linear fashion right here, while we're increasing clamp load and torque, both in a linear fashion, there's no real stretch going on in the bolt. Remember, everything is a spring. Where'd my bolt go? Everything made of any kind of material is a spring. Everything moves, everything bends, everything stretches. Everything is going to have a certain amount of plasticity to it. But in this area here, while torque and clamp load are rising the same way, there's no stretch going on that can't be recovered from. So you're going to basically torque this to what's called a proof load. Which is a load at which torquing it to your proof load, when you remove the tension from that fastener, it'll return to its original shape. What's going to happen after that is you're going to be applying more torque to it, but your clamp load will still be rising, but the amount that your clamp load rises is going to be less and less for a given torque. What's actually happening at that point is the fastener, the bolt, is stretching, it is deforming, it is plastically deforming, and when you increase it past that proof load, you get into this area of plasticity from which that fastener is not going to recover from. You will stretch it to a point where when you remove tension from it, it will not recover from, and eventually you're going to torque this past the point where this is basically the yield point, which is the point of no return for the bolt stretching past a point where it can't return to its original shape. And then you'll apply more and more torque to it, and eventually it's just going to snap. It's gonna eventually meet its failure point. So that's essentially your curve. Usually this proof load, it's going to be about 85%, 85-90% of ultimate yield point. So there's a little bit of safety margin in there for being able to reuse a bolt. But again, understand that if you are reusing a bolt, understand how much torque was on that bolt, how much stress you put on it. If you exceed this proof load on the bolt, don't use it again, or don't use it again in a mission critical application. Time to replace that bolt the next time you use it. Okay. Yeah, Honey mentioned that the text reminders are really convenient. What they are referring to there is, if you text GRM Live, that's GRM LIVE, I'll even write it down, 2319996. Text GRM Live to 31996. We'll send you text notifications about what's going on the show, any schedule changes, anything cool we got coming up. We don't sell that list to anybody. We don't, it's not weird stuff. It's not pervert stuff. It's not a bunch of commercial messages. It's just updates about the show, and you can get those. Okay. Get caught up on some of our questions here. It's mostly smart ass remarks, but we have a lot of, yeah. Dinesh mentioned that be a good lesson for all those teenagers working at Jiffy Lube using impact guns on oil drain plugs. Yeah, it's important. As I started researching for this show, I was realizing just how important it is to torque to a spec, because your torque is a second order calculation for clamping load. You're just extrapolating clamping load through torque. So the more you screw up torque, it's going to have magnifying effects on the thing you're actually trying to measure. All right, so let's get into some of these wrenches. And I see Jesse Spiker is watching. Jesse, we are taking good care of your Precision Instruments wrenches that you loaned us for the evening. And we'll get to those in just a few minutes. But let me run you down the lineup of stuff we have for you tonight. We'll get our test doohickey in place. We got wrenches from about 5 different brands here. Starting out with some from Sonic Tools. These we've chosen for the most part 3/8 and 1/2 inch torque wrenches for all these examples. Starting out with these wrenches from Sonic Tools. Let me get my handy dandy information sheet out here so I am quoting you actual numbers. Sonic 2-way torque wrench, 3/8 inch, 20 to 100 Newton meters is 180 American dollars. Sonic 1/2 inch, 40 to 200 Newton meters, $190. USAG is the next brand. These are available through Griot's Garage. USAG is an Italian company and make a lot of high-end tools for motorsport over in Europe. These are through Griot's Garage, 3/8 inch, $269.99 for the 3/8. For the 1/2 inch, $274.99 for the USAG 1/2 inch. We'll get into some of the features of these individual wrenches as we go through. I just want to run down what's here. Next up is a brand called Icon. You may have heard a little bit about these. This is Harbor Freight's premium brand. This is their high-end brand. They are actually trying to compete with some of the commercial grade stuff. The 3/8 version of this Icon wrench at Harbor Freight is going to run you $89.99. I know that because I just bought this one 2 days ago. And the bad news is you cannot use those great 20% off coupons from Harbor Freight on these, as it is one of their premium house brands. But nice feeling wrench, and we'll give you the test results on those. The 1/2 inch Icon from Harbor Freight, $99.99. Moving on, we borrowed these from our friend Jesse. These are from a company called Precision Instruments. This is a dual beam style torque wrench. I'll get into what that means in just a second. These will run you, the 3/8 one, I found it on Amazon for $143.69 for the Precision Instruments 3/8 inch. I found the 1/2 inch Precision Instruments on Amazon for $189.99, although somebody told me they were a little bit cheaper. They found one a little bit cheaper than that. These are nice because they have a swiveling head. It's a dual beam style, and I have a little graphic that'll show you what that is. This is the $20 torque wrench that everybody sells under a different brand name. At least I'm sure, because they all look exactly the same. If you go to Harbor Freight and buy one that is called Pittsburgh, this is what it's going to look like. You can go to Tractor Supply and buy one. This is a Great Neck branded one. I think that's Tractor Supplies. Any place you buy a $20 torque wrench, it's probably going to be this $20 torque wrench. And those you definitely can use a 20% off coupon for. And last but not least, we wanted to try a digital torque wrench. So we went to Lowe's and bought this 1/2-inch Kobalt digital torque wrench, $200, $199.99. And we'll give you the results of that in just a second. So let's, so Basila says, Harbor Freight torque wrenches are trash. We'll find out in a couple minutes, won't we? This will tell us exactly how trashy they are, my friend. Andrew says he didn't know Harbor Freight had a premium brand. They actually do. This icon stuff is pretty cool. Let's take a quick look at how these work, and we'll go into a little quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll actually test some of these. So most of these are basically a detent style torque wrench. Well, here we have a little graphic here. So this is how most torque wrenches are going to work. So this is a clicker style torque wrench. So what you see there is you see a spring, and the spring is holding a sometimes it's a detent ball, sometimes it's a square edged piece of material, and there's a secondary hinge on the device right here. That's what this pin is for. It's actually internally hinged, and that hinge is based on the tension of a detent ball or a detent pin that you have to overcome torque to break free. So that's why you get the click. It actually momentarily releases the torque from the wrench when you overcome the torque of that detent ball. So when you adjust it, all you're doing is preloading that spring. So that also, the good news there, it makes it fairly easy to recalibrate these. You put a different weight spring in, you shave the balls down a little bit, you polish off the end of the detents. Probably it's mostly by shimming or replacing the spring, but that's how a clicker style torque wrench works. Now here is how a double beam style torque wrench works, which is what these Precision Instruments ones are. Same concept. You're essentially overcoming mechanical leverage to release the head of the wrench. And there's a few different designs, but the double beam style uses, instead of just a single beam hinged at the head, double beam style is going to use multiple beams that actually amplify the torque a little bit, and the result is much smoother operation when that finally breaks free, and much less preload on the spring. So these Precision Instruments double beam style have just a very easy. It's almost like winding a watch. It's very easy to adjust the torque on them. Is one better or worse than the other? The real answer is they're both pretty good at what they do. It's really going to come down to the precision and the assembly of the pieces involved. They will both. There's different ways to skin a cat. It's just how sharp is your knife when you skin that cat. All right, we are going to take a quick break here, by which I mean I'm going to still be standing up here. I'll just be talking about different things for a couple minutes. When we come back, we're going to actually test some of these, and I will come to some conclusions on which of this particular lineup we have in front of us I would maybe spend some of my own money on. Folks, are you like me? Is every day just a living nightmare of squeaky hinges and dirty brakes? Well, sir or madam, why don't you check out the great lineup from CRC Industries? Whereas there's never anything too far. Oh my God, look at this. Look, an entire gallon of brake clean just sitting over here. This is the kind of world I live in, where gallons of brake clean just sit around the shop. Folks, everybody knows how great brake clean is. When you think of brake cleaners, brake clean, it's like the Kleenex. It's the Band-Aid of the brake cleaning chemical world is CRC brake clean. You know what else is great about CRC brake clean? Yes, it's a fine product, but also in addition, and plus that, they give a little bit back to this motorsports community that we love and enjoy. So when you're at a major retailer, when you're at Harbor Freight, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, O'Reilly, Napa, Advanced Auto Parts, you're buying automotive chemicals and you reach for that CRC stuff, you reach for some CRC carb cleaner or some of that QD electronics cleaner that we love now because it's super fast evaporating, super mild, some brake clean, some freeze off. Getting a great product, also giving a little bit back to this community that we live in and supporting this show. What could possibly be better? Absolutely nothing. crcindustries.com on the web, even better at a major retailer near you. Also, check out our friends at Coney Shocks, coney-na.com on the web. Grassroots Motorsports advertisers forever, supporters of the SCCA Track Night in America program, makers of fantastic shock absorbers for your car, truck, SUV, race car, train car, stagecoach, building. Coney has been making shocks for decades, and they are a company with great people working there. Guys like Lee Grimes work with us on a lot of different projects. Coney-na.com on the web, or at major retailers like Tire Rack. Whatever you drive, Coney has a fantastic shock for it to make it better. Okay. So, Dr. Hess says we're going to guess the weight of the torque wrench this week. No weight guessing this week. Let us... Yes, okay, here we're, let's get back to our questions here. So, good question from Steve. He wants to hear about torque sticks. Yes, we are going to talk about torque sticks, but not tonight. I started doing some research on them. I started looking into them. Too complicated to add to this show tonight, but I've got a set sitting there that is going to be worked into a future show. There's a lot to unpack there. There is. We're going to do another show that's going to deal with stuff like torque sticks, going to deal with stuff like lubricated and unlubricated threads. I need to get a couple pieces of test equipment, either purchased, rented, or built before we do that show. So yeah, that is definitely coming. Not tonight. We got enough to worry about tonight. My brain is full enough of this stuff. Right? But yes, great suggestion. We get caught up here. So Steve wants to know what he missed. We were just starting on the awesome stuff right now. So actually, before we start actually testing some torque wrenches here, last chance. If you're watching us on YouTube, give me a subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, give me a like, give me a share, and let us test some torque wrenches. Okay, I have actually done quite a bit of testing with these wrenches already. I have produced a bunch of numbers, and we'll go over the accuracy that we came up with these, and we'll show you some differences in them. But what I want to talk about tonight is mostly which of these I like and which I don't after going through and testing them. Start off with the sonic stuff. Some really cool features on this sonic stuff. First off, let's look at the accuracy of the sonic stuff. For the 3/8 inch, I tested these at both 25 pounds feet of torque and 75 pounds of torque for the 3/8 versions. The sonic was within 1% on both of those. It was at 25 pounds, it was 24.95. At 75 pounds, it was 74.4. So within 1%, I believe they promise, they claim within 3% accuracy. So yeah, very well within their claims. Show you how we test these. Put a little adapter here. So I'm going to set this baby to, first off, we'll show you how the lock works. Sonic's very easy to adjust. Pull out the lock, twist the preload handle to whatever torque you want. It's a little tricky to read. If I had to nitpick it, I would say the gauge on this is a little tricky to read, but it does seem well weighted and it lines up nice, so we'll set that to 50 pounds. We'll insert it in there and we'll twist it till it clicks. So it's set to 50 pounds, came up with 49.4, 48.2. I think we missed on that one. We'll wait till it recycles. 48.1. 48.1. So we can see we're very, very repeatable, but actually a little bit lower than what we were measuring last night when I was doing the testing. What are the variables involved in that? Well, temperature is possibly one. It's a little bit cooler when I was doing the testing last night. So we can see about a 0.5%, almost full percent difference in some of the readings we're getting based on what it was from last night when it was 15, 18 degrees cooler. So there is some variability in there. Now, question we get frequently, and one thing as I was researching this, everybody was asking me, hey, does it matter if I put an extension on there? Does it matter if I put a universal on there? I'm no engineer. In the limited testing that I did, there does not seem to be a big difference in what we saw. So first, let's grab about a 4-inch extension here. Put it back in. It misses every once in a while, but 48.1, which is exactly what we were coming up with just the wrench itself. So we're within margin of error on that with a 4-inch extension. Now I'm going to add a universal to it. Oop, or maybe not. Get on there, you piece of crap. Okay. So that's with a universal and an extension, and we're seeing essentially the same numbers. 49.1, 49.3, 48.1. So, to answer your question, does it matter if you put a universal and an extension on there? Maybe not so much. Actually, let me grab an even longer extension. I'm going to get the longest extension I have in the drawer. So Benjamin says, from a static perspective, no, it shouldn't matter as long as it's straight. Moment arm remains the same. Yeah, so what he's basically saying is as long as everything is remaining straight, as long as the angle is exactly the same, none of what you put on there should matter to your ultimate torque. Here's what it does matter to, though. Matters very much to feel. With an extension on here this long, this is like a 14-inch extension, the amount of flex that you get before the wrench triggers is considerable. So timing that release point of the wrench becomes fairly critical. You have to kind of sneak up on it and then hit it. You can see that we're varying here on our readings. That's not really the wrench. That's more me than it is the wrench. It's taking some feel. So where it is going to matter is when we start creating angle with a universal. So let me get our universal stuck back in here. And if we put this, well, I'm just going to put it at about a 45-degree angle. And you see how much we lost right there. We lost 30% almost at a 45-degree angle. We'll eyeball this to about a 10-degree angle, see what we lose. Less, only about 8 or 9% at a 10-degree angle. But considerable at a 45-degree angle. So, does all this crap in the middle matter? If you start changing the angle, yes, it absolutely does. If you don't change the angle, mathematically it doesn't matter. From a user perspective, yes, there definitely are effects when you start using this stuff. So that was our test methodology for all these. I'm not going to walk you through testing on every single one of these wrenches, but I am going to go through the rest of these wrenches and some of the features very quickly. The Sonics, both of them, like we mentioned, great locking mechanism at the end, very, very difficult to adjust it accidentally. It's kind of hard to pull that out with the heel of your hand if you're using it. Very positive lock. Also, really, really cool feature, reversing anvil on the head there. So why does that matter? Well, why that matters is a torque wrench will generally have different readings whether you're torquing something clockwise or counterclockwise. And you're not going to often torque something counterclockwise unless you've got reverse threaded bolts. But most torque wrenches are not calibrated in both directions to an equal amount. If you look at the specs on many torque wrenches, they'll be accurate to within a certain standard clockwise, possibly a different standard counterclockwise. This lets you basically torque clockwise both directions. You just reverse where the anvil comes out of the head. So, nice little function there. Oh, Steve posted, varies. Okay, so the torque varies by the cosine of the angle. Brainiac, okay, whatever. Yeah, there's math for that. So if it varies by the cosine, it's going to accelerate as you increase the angle. 5-10 degree difference is not going to be, like a 40-degree difference is going to be more than 4 times worse than a 10-degree difference. So small differences, not going to matter too much. Big differences, they're going to matter. Real answer is keep everything straight. Keep everything really, really straight. Great point there, Steve. Steve Goff posted that torquing in reverse is important for testing stuff like breakaway torque. So yeah, when you're doing reliability testing, if you're rebuilding a differential, torquing in both directions becomes important for that. Okay, see where we're still at. The half-inch Sonic, where were we at in price for that? $190 for the half-inch Sonic. Very much like the 3/8, features are all the same. You have the reversing anvil. Build quality also very nice. Same locking mechanism on the end. Again, if I'm nitpicking the Sonic, it's that the window here is a little bit tricky to read. Foot-pounds are on the bottom, Newton meters are on the top, and both of them are sort of in the area where the glass bubbles a little bit, and they're just not the easiest things to read. Let us move on to the USAG wrenches. These are available from, among other places, from Griot's Garage. They are a little spendy. They're $269.99 for the 3/8, $274.99 for the half-inch. I will pull up the specs on these. So USAG wrenches. So first caveat on these is we were not able to test at 75 foot-pounds on the 3/8 because this particular version does not go up to 75 pounds on the 3/8 version. So we tested at its maximum torque setting, which was 37 foot-pounds for the 3/8, and we were within 2% on that. At the 25-pound level, we were within 1% on that. So I believe these guys claim 4% accuracy. Yeah, their claimed accuracy is within 4%, so they are beating that handily, 1% to 2%, so they're doing great on that. With an extension, we're looking at about the same numbers. Yeah, within 2%. There was nothing beyond 2% on any of these. So let's talk about features a little bit. My big nitpick on these USAG wrenches is the fact that they are only calibrated in Newton meters, and Newton meters are great if you're European or Australian or anything but American. Unfortunately, I was raised in a world where foot-pounds were everything. At some point, I guess I could recalibrate my brain. At some point, I could put up a chart and do all the math, but I was raised in Newton meters. Doesn't mean I'm a good person or a bad person. It just means that's where my frame of reference is. And having to add an extra step at 49 years of age and figure out what Newton meters actually means, I want to be a foot-pounds guy, so that's my only real complaint with these. The gauge is incredibly easy to read. The adjustment is great. Nice locking collar on this one. You pull that collar down and it adjusts very, very easily. Everything's very, very easy to read. It's just in the wrong calibration for my American sensibilities. Same thing with the half-inch version. Same great locking collar, same most readable gauge of any of these wrenches. The half-inch USAG wrench was within 2% on all of its measurements. We had one flyer though on the half-inch USAG with an extension and a universal. It was high actually on at both 60 foot-pounds and 120 foot-pounds. We were getting readings a little bit higher than that with accessories attached. Aside from that, within 2% on all its tests, they claim within 4%, so they are beating that handily as well. Let us move on next. Just going over, seeing if I missed any good questions here. So, yeah, our friend Steve from Honda says they use Newton meters on their U.S. design and built race engines for all their Honda race cars. Good for you, man. You know what? One day I'm going to learn to speak German and Spanish fluently, and one day I'm going to figure out Newton meters. Today is not that day. Let us move on to the Icon wrenches. These are available to Harbor Freight. They are not eligible for any of the Harbor Freight 20% coupons. This is sort of Harbor Freight's premium house brand. Really nice ergonomics on this one. This is an all metal wrench. I tend to kind of like an all metal wrench. These plastic handled ones from Sonic and USAG, they're very, very comfortable, but they're going to get dirty fast, at least in my world. If you're somebody that always wears gloves, always wipes your tools down constantly, works in a very clean environment, these will last a lot longer. For my habits, an all metal wrench tends to stay cleaner and stay nicer longer. Same or similar style locking collar design to the USAG, so one-handed operation is fairly easy. Nice smooth operation. 90 tooth gear set in these, so it's a very, very here. So, nice smooth 90 tooth operation in there, and the accuracy on the Icons was actually fantastic. We were on the 3/8. It was dead nuts on, less than 1% variance with and without extensions on both of our tests. Actually, its biggest variance was at 75 foot-pounds. It was a full 1% off. Other than that, it was actually less than 1% off on all of its tests in the 3/8 version for the Icon. The 1/2-inch Icon, similar build, similar design. We can see it is quite a bit longer than any of these. It is a good 4 to 6 inches longer than the USAG, and a good probably 3 inches longer than the Icon. Same locking collar, same dual calibration, foot-pounds on the back, Newton meters on the front. And the accuracy for the Icon 1/2-inch was wrench only within 1%, 1.5% at 120 pounds, within 1.5% with a 6-inch extension, and within 2% with an extension and a universal. So they claim 4% in the clockwise direction, 6% in the anti-clockwise direction. So all of our tests were within 2% on the Icon. Let us take a look now at Jesse's dual beam torque wrenches. Best thing I can say about these, and they are fantastic wrenches. These are the Precision Instruments split beam click wrenches. The adjustment on these is absolutely world class. That is the advantage of a split beam wrench. Is the adjustment is very slick. There's no preload, and the release on these is really fantastic. I'm going to set this one to just kind of eyeball it to about 30 pounds. Oh, hang on, I think I missed a YouTube question here. Let me walk over and scroll up. Somebody said that's a great question, and I think I just flat missed what the great question was. Who calibrates the calibration machines? Yeah, that is something I have been wondering the entire time I have been doing this. And when I wrap this up, I think I will. I'll give my thoughts on that. So yeah, we got this set to a little over 30 pounds. I'm not sure how easy this is going to be to perceive for you, but the release on this dual beam wrench is just absolutely fantastic. It's got a very nice tactile feedback. It actually momentarily releases the torque, so you never really worry about over torquing something. And it does have these nice swivel heads. Unfortunately, the precision on these was not as great as some of our other ones. Jesse, sorry. Maybe time to go get your wrenches tested. There was a lot of variation in these. The 3/8 was within 3% on both its tests. The 1/2-inch varied by as much as 5% on most of its tests, and the 1/2-inch normally read high. So if we set it to 120 pounds, it would show up 124, 125 on the test machine here. And there was as much as about 5% variance, and it was consistently, it was consistently high for the 1/2-inch. Now, there was not more than about 2% variance in how high it was. So it was consistently 3 to 5% high. It was never 2% low and then 5% high. So read very consistently throughout its range, but did consistently read a little bit high. Finally, let us take a look at the $20 special. These are available under a variety of brands. If you go into Walmart, if you go into Harbor Freight, if you go into Tractor Supply, or any discount store, you're going to find one of these $20 torque wrenches. I was a little bit surprised with how good the thing was on the machine. So the variance we only had a 1/2 inch, so we only did at 60 and 120 pounds. It never varied more than 2%. We were never more than 2% off of the actual desired torque. Well, okay, no, there was one test at 120 pounds with an extension and a universal. We were 3% off. So $20, and you're maybe 1% or 2% worse than the rest of these. Not quite as precise as the high-end stuff, but pretty darn good. So I think what that means, and this is what I've done with my life, I got these things everywhere. They're in my trailer, they're in my truck, they're anywhere I might need a torque wrench, and I don't care if I lose it, and I don't care if I have to use it as a hammer or as a weapon or as just something fun to throw at a street sign. These are disposable and surprisingly accurate devices. For the shop, I'm gonna get something a little more consistent. Now, somebody asked earlier, who calibrates the calibrators? That's a great question. Actually, Mark is answering that. When he worked at IBM, the U.S. government weights and measured calibrated theirs for weights and volts. So the real answer is, I don't know, but there are agencies that do that. There is always somebody up the food chain who's going to monitor the performance of this stuff, even if it's, Snap-on monitoring all this stuff in-house. So the question is not necessarily who calibrates the calibrators. The question is, who do you trust the most? And the real answer to that, I think, is consistency is going to be just as important as accuracy. If you've got a torque wrench that you trust, get it tested every year. Get it tested every 6 months. Find a service period that you're comfortable with. Get it tested consistently. Build a chart of indicated torque versus actual torque, and use the same tester every time. Use the same test methodology every time, and build repeatability. And exercising that repeatability is going to make up for possibly any accuracy. So we have got to make a decision here on which one we are going to buy. So yeah, Dinesh says, Florida man arrested after knocking over signs with torque wrenches. That's actually you knock over a couple signs with a torque wrench in Florida, you're going to be like mayor of Chattahoochee. That's just how it works around here. And Steve says a hammer is everything, and everything is a hammer. We actually have a thing called Schroeder's Law, coined by the late great Paris Schroeder, who's still alive. He just works somewhere else now, so technically he's not late. But basically that law is any tool from Harbor Freight will eventually become a hammer. They have added this great high-end icon stuff, and it's pretty sweet. Oh, let's get into the digital one. Okay, digital torque wrench from Lowe's. $200, great in your hand. This is fantastic right up until the moment that you actually have to use it. Let me show you how this baby works. Now I will show you why I am not really recommending a digital torque wrench for you. So great way to adjust torque on this thing. Let's set it to 80 pounds. Okay, so this baby's set to 80 pounds. We'll turn our machine back on, let it zero itself. And how this digital baby works is you're going to lean on it, and eventually you're going to hear a tone. I'll get my mic up close to there. So the beep, the repeated beep means you're getting close. The steady tone means you hit it. Now here's what sucks about that. We were dragging a little bit. Here's what kind of sucks about that. These beam type torque wrenches, whether they be the detent ones or the double beam, actually momentarily release the torque on the fastener. This does not. So it is very, very easy to over torque something just by leaning on it a little bit further. It's also easy to under torque something by sneaking up on it too slowly. It's very, very hard to be consistent with this thing. If you're not, paying 100% attention to it. The tactile feedback of these beam types, far superior from a usability perspective than that. Yeah, it sounds cool, it's beeping, but you see, I'm all over the place with this thing, because see, I didn't even get to the beep then. It's like skee ball. It's just incredibly frustrating because you're constantly sneaking up on this target that only gives you an audible signal, but you're still able to put torque on the thing. So yeah, it is incredibly frustrating. I'm not a fan. I am just simply not a fan of the digital torque wrench, even though everybody at Lowe's was very nice. I'm probably going to return this. Don't tell anybody. So. Yeah, Dinesh says it's basically a noisy breaker bar. And Harbor Freight has for $28 a tiny version of the Lowe's digital torque wrench. Works about as well. If you've got to have a digital torque wrench, just go buy one of these adapters. Accuracy-wise, again, it was all over the place. When I got good at it, when I actually practiced for a while, I was able to get within about 2%. Pretty consistently with the Lowe's digital torque wrench. I shouldn't have to practice to use a torque wrench. I'm not that big of an idiot. So let's make a decision here. Lots of things to like about all of these. The ergonomics of the premium brands, really nice. Build quality of them also really nice. The accuracy across the board on all of these, though, very, very similar. And they all come with, here's one of the most important things you can get with your torque wrench. This is from one of the icons. I think this is from the half-inch icon. It's going to come with a calibration sheet. This one was calibrated by Nick. So Nick, fine work on calibrating this this half-inch torque wrench, and it's got a variety of numbers on there that shows what Nick tested, which directions, what the actual readings he got were, and that is a great place to start when you buy a good torque wrench. Start with that calibration sheet. Find a Snap-on truck. Find a quality tool store. Any high-end tool store you have in your area, someplace that services the trades, not just like an Ace Hardware or a Lowe's or Home Depot. Find a place that services the trades. Here in Daytona, we got a place called B&B Fastener. They service all the local tradespeople. They are the ones that generally have this equipment, or anybody on a tool truck is going to have this equipment. Somebody on a tool truck, though, might frown on you, testing your 8 different torque wrenches that aren't Snap-ons on their Snap-on tool truck. So your best bet's going to be to find a tool store in your area that services the trades. And I don't know how you will do that, but I know where they are around here, and hopefully you have one in your area. So, decision time. If I was spending my own money on any of these, I would hands down, without fail, pick these Icon wrenches. I think they're a bang for the buck. They are clearly the best deal here because they're a third the price of any of these other wrenches, maybe half the price of the Precision Instruments ones. But regardless of the price, they're just as, if not more accurate than anything else we tested. And you walk into any Harbor Freight and get another one. You can't use that sweet coupon, but they got a winner with these things. I will hand it to them. The action on them is really, really good. There's a nice positive release when you get to the torque point. I got it set pretty low so you can actually, Chris, zoom in there and they can actually see the bar break a little bit. Look at that smooth zoom. So you can actually see the bar breaking away from the head. So what that's doing is it's not only telling you that you've reached the desired torque, but it's momentarily removing the torque from the fastener, which again is why I like a manual, a click style analog torque wrench more than those digital ones. But so yeah, if I'm picking a winner, I am picking these icons all the way, both for a price dependent or price independent. If I'm picking a runner-up, I am probably going to go with these precision instruments because the action of the double beam is so satisfying. It's very smooth, especially in the smaller size. There's a nice balance to this tool. There's just a really, really nice breakaway. Even more precise than the Harbor Freight breakaway. Can't really see it as much, but the way it feels in your hand is very, very satisfying and very, very positive. So this would definitely be my pick for a runner-up. But I gotta tell you, these I'm impressed. I am more impressed than I thought I would be. So go to Harbor Freight, unironically, and pick up some of those icon wrenches. Mark wants to know, how much is the calibration tool? Looked it up and found all kinds of different prices for it. Everything for, I actually saw a couple of used ones like on eBay for $250, $300. New ones, I want to say $550 to $700. $550, yeah. So I think $550 is the retail. Okay, yeah. Well, we threw a link up. So let's get to some of the questions here. James says the icon looks like a knockoff Snap-on. You're not the first one I heard that from. I guess if you're going to copy somebody, copy the best. Everybody wants to know, how high do they go? The 3/8 icon goes to 100 foot-pounds and down to, goes from 20 to 100 on the 3/8, and the 1/2 inch goes up to 250 on the high end and down to 50 on the low end. So actually among the greatest range of any of these as well. Paul wants to know, what is a rough spot when adjusting a micrometer style torque wrench indicate? Probably crud in the threads. That would be the first thing. Yeah, and Don Johnson replied, probably stuff in the threads. Colin says, person that provided the precision said earlier that Snap-ons are actually relabeled precisions. He mentioned that to me as well, and I looked it up, and Jesse, I could actually not find confirmation that these precisions are the ones that built Snap-on. There is apparently a fairly popular urban legend that is true, but the information that I found said that Snap-on wrenches were built by a company called CDI, I believe, and not Precision Instruments. So you are in the trades. I am not saying you are wrong. I'm saying I could not find additional confirmation. I could find people that also believe that was true, but found other information as well. And by the time I was done researching that, it was time for the show, so I could neither confirm nor deny that claim. and Jesse just gave us one of these. So let's see what else we got. I got glare on the stupid YouTube thing. Let me scroll down here a little bit because we got some good questions over here. So Will says, when storing the wrench, he was taught to leave the wrench set at its minimum torque, not 0. I haven't heard that, but it is what you've got in most of the click style torque wrenches is you have a spring providing preload on some sort of a detent mechanism. So if you're storing that spring under tension, a well-designed spring should in a well-engineered spring should be well within its operating parameters to be stored at any level of tension and not permanently deform. At least not deform any faster than other use would wear it out. So theoretically, you should be able to store it at any tension. It should be able to retain the springiness, the ductility of the metal. In practice, you've got all sorts of other variables like temperature and humidity and the amount of alkaline in the air, causing corrosion, changing the metallurgy on a molecular level. I would say unless it's one of these, unless it's a $20 special, your best bet is probably to store that wrench with the minimum amount of preload on it that you can get away with, but right down towards the bottom of its adjustment range, just not to put any more tension or any more strain on any of the metallic parts, whether it be preloading that spring or preloading the ball in the detent. If it's something you're not using very often, you could actually be getting some corrosion that's going to change the preload on those detents. So yeah, probably not a bad idea in general. I just kind of talked through that one to figure out if you were right or not. So the real answer is I don't know, but I can definitely see an argument for storing something at its minimum torque. Okay, yeah. Steve says, like keeping your mags loaded. And Kevin wants to know if there's going to be a hot sauce night anytime soon. Yeah, you know what? Why not? We'll do a hot sauce thing before too long. Next week, though, we are doing, Chris, pan around and get a shot of the quick jack on the floor there. We're going to be testing out a couple of different portable jacks, the quick jack, and we got an Autolift 3000 sitting over in the corner there. We're actually going to have our friend Jesse over. He's a professional mechanic. He's going to be assessing the usefulness of some of these quick jacking solutions, and we're going to get the opinion of a pro mechanic as to whether they're actually useful or not. So that's what's going on next week. So Apollo wants to know recommended torque wrench for lock nuts for a valve adjustment. Lock nut spec is 14 pounds. I would say you are going to be looking at, for a 14 pound foot, you're looking at a 1/4 inch drive torque wrench. So I would be looking at something. David, is there a 1/4 inch option for these icons? I did not see. Go to the Harbor Freight website. Because I'm in love with these icon wrenches now, and if there's a 1/4 inch option for these, I'm going to say this is your best bet for a 14 pounder. If not, these Precision Instruments wrenches are fantastic, and I really like I like the 3/8 a lot better than the 1/2 inch. And I have a feeling that the smaller you get with these double beam style wrenches, the more satisfying they get to use. So I would say if Icon doesn't have a 1/4 inch torque wrench, 1/2 inch and 3/8. Okay, so if I'm making a recommendation for you, I'm saying find one of these Precision Instruments double beams in a 1/4 inch, and that's gonna give you your 14 pounds, because this 3/8 one only goes down to 20 foot-pounds. So yeah, you're gonna need basically a 1/4 inch. So yep. So that is my recommendation for that, Apollo. And Darius says, somewhere out there's probably a forum that discusses and argues about nothing but tools. Yes, I absolutely believe that is true. Okay, we gotta get out of here, folks. It is getting late. Thank you very, very much for watching tonight. Thank you very much for all the likes and all the shares. If you took the time to subscribe to our YouTube channel, thank you very much. If you did not, please do that before you leave. Even if you're watching on Facebook tonight, head over to YouTube, subscribe to that channel. We are doing a subscription drive. Every so often, we're grabbing somebody off of the YouTube channel that subscribes, leaves a comment, might get something free in the mail. You never know. You might get an email from me one day that just says, hey, you won something because you're a YouTube subscriber. So go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel. In the meantime, you can text GRM Live, GRM Live, to 31996. You will get text updates about what's coming up on the show. If there's any schedule changes. I just got invited and accepted the invitation to go drive the new Toyota Supra in just a couple of weeks. So I will be reporting live from that event as well. We'll have video features and live coverage from the press launch of the new Supra. Might not be on a Wednesday night though. Don't know exactly what night I'm going to be able to do that. So might have to text you and say, hey, you want to know all about the new Supra we just drove? It's going to be on Thursday, brother. It's going to be on Tuesday. We don't know what's going on. But text GRM Live to 31996 and you will be able to get first crack at that information. Also, before we go, check out our friends over here down in the corner, the people that make this show possible. Talking about our friends at Crc Industries, crcindustries.com on the web. Even better, at a major retailer near you, whether you're looking for brake cleaner, lubricant, penetrating lube, lithium grease, any of that stuff, any automotive chemical, you're buying the CRC stuff, getting great stuff, also giving a little bit back to this motorsports world that we live and love in. Also check out our friends at Coney-na.com on the web, or at great retailers like Tire Rack, proud supporters of this show, proud supporters of great programs like the SCCA's Track Night in America program, and suppliers of fantastic shocks, whether it's for your car, truck, SUV you're driving on the road, whether it's for a Miata or a BMW you're autocrossing, or whether it's for a Formula car that you're racing, Coney has a shock for it. Check them out, Coney-na.com. Chris is working the camera tonight. David's over there doing social media. Had a great night hanging out with you in the shop here, folks. We'll see you again next week. I am literally counting the seconds until 8 p.m. tomorrow night when this is happening, so you know where I'll be tomorrow night if you want to rob my house and steal some of these torque wrenches. I will see you next week, everybody. For the entire staff of Grassroots Motorsports, I'm JG Pasterjack. This is GRM Live, presented by CRC Industries. Good night, everybody.